Transcendence. Transcendence says, I can shape my future. Does it mean that I am 100% in control of everything that can influence my future or somehow affect me? No, but it says I can shape my future. The question is then, if I want to shape my future through the shaping of my body via muscle building and leaning out and continuing my physique transformation, why haven't I? Why haven't I? Well, I'm sure you can relate. There's knowing versus doing, isn't there? I am extremely interested in the gap. What is going on in the gap between knowing and doing? And I'm extremely interested in this gap and the psychological, social, environmental mechanisms at play, and becoming more aware of those and seizing in those moments through conscious awareness, my agency, and aligning the will, right? So in my transcendence reel, I talked about how transcendence is both the realization and the enactment of the power of the will being that which can make things happen, make choices via some goal, vision, meaningful projects that one has chosen. One of my meaningful projects is muscle building because it connects to the big picture of longevity, quality of life. So, I talked about that, but transcendence, as I said, it's a deliberately sustained practice. It's a deliberately sustained mindset, a growth-oriented mindset that is also deliberately sustained. And what do we mean by deliberate and sustained? We mean deliberate on purpose. What do we mean by sustained? Ongoing. So a deliberately sustained practice is an on purpose, ongoing, continuation of something, okay? And so, of course, there's a deliberately sustained practice of transcendence where you're choosing via your agency and not just letting the forces of the universe, the cosmos, others, social, political, personal, psychological things act upon you. But there's also the enactment of it where your will pulls from knowing to affect doing, okay? It's also, like I said, a deliberately sustained mindset and a continual enforcement of the will. So my next carousel is going to be focused on that gap. What happens, what is happening so that I can master this gap. In other words, I need to make this gap my bitch. So what I'm doing is I'm analyzing to understand, to become more self-aware, to grow in self-knowledge, to act on that knowledge, so that I can and continue to execute the knowledge into practice. So I will not be overthinking it in the sense that I won't be like I'm going to stop and not do any actions and apply the knowledge. I am. But as I do it, because I'm a human being, I am going to share the real gritty struggle of that gap and lessening the moments of that gap between knowing and doing protocols. And of course, a lot of what I say here applies to life, right? It applies to life and the things that we're trying to achieve with life. It just so happens that I want to apply this all to my project of aging strong and building muscle. So yes, I would not call this overthinking from my perspective as a philosopher. I like to think that what I'm doing is applied philosophy. It is to understand my understanding, this gap, the will, get things in control as I'm doing the practice. Conceptual clarity. So I'm clarifying concepts, gaining self-knowledge, introspecting, reflecting while acting and engaging in the practice. And so it's really a dialectic. It's a dialectic between concepts, conceptual clarification, introspection, analysis, and the doing. And then figuring out what's going on here to where one reinforces the other. So to me, that is not overthinking. To me, that is conceptual clarification in order to elevate application into outcomes. And with that, I leave you with a flex to remind you that this is about my aging strong journey, though I will be getting philosophically down.